Hello and welcome to another edition of the Ectohead channel. So, today's topic, frankly, who do you trust? You'll notice in the background I'm playing some footage of Dr. Stephen Greer. Now I could have chosen anyone. Elizondo, Gary Nolan, Dr. Beatrice Villarreal, amongst many others. But when it comes to the question, who do you trust? Dr. Stephen Greer is top of the list. Now, I have to preface this edition by saying I haven't met any of the individuals I'm going to talk about, but I do believe in being direct and respectful at all times. And also, this is just speculation based on the public personas that I and you see. Now, Dr. Greer is a kind of controversial individual who seems to divide opinion. And not only does he divide opinion, he seems to court that division. He seems to actively enjoy it, almost as though he was some kind of intelligence asset who was reveling in muddying the waters. On the one hand, he's one thing, and on the other hand, he's another thing. Professionally speaking, I believe Dr. Greer is a trauma surgeon, and so there's no doubt that in terms of his professional work, he's done some great things. And he's also done some great things for ufology. If it wasn't for Dr. Greer's press club event a couple of decades ago, I don't really think we'd be where we are now. He laid the groundwork. His witnesses were all credible, he knew exactly what he was doing, and he brought it all together in a fashion which, frankly, is the template that everyone uses now. His contribution historically cannot be understated, and I hope very much it won't be. But Dr. Stephen Greer has gone from the Tsar of disclosure to a rather odd character, it seems. He's smug, he's prideful, overconfident, some might say. But if you know anything about Dr. Stephen Greer, if the things he talks about are in fact true, the things that he's had to endure, then maybe you would be too. But the problem with being that kind of personality now, in this particular field, becomes problematic. Because when you're trying to convince people, or at least educate people as to the existence of intelligent others here on the planet, it's all too easy to come off as a bit cuckoo. And for people who are new to the subject, currently coming into it, if their first experience is Dr. Greer, then it's enough to turn you off. And I know this because I had a friend who not too long ago actually said, get into ufology, have a look, see what you think. And the first thing they did was called up a few interviews with Dr. Stephen Greer. And they found his personality so repugnant that they just didn't want to deal with it anymore. But they persevered, and they came across a bunch of people in interviews who were shot back in the late 90s, who were being ridiculed by the various TV presenters at the time. The guests were sincere enough, but there was always an edge of, look at him. And this experience was enough to basically make them turn off, switch off, in fact. Dr. Greer is nothing if not infuriating. I watched his interview with Jesse Michaels, and frankly, he just came across as a bit of a douche. That might be controversial to some people, but he's gone from this event here to being effectively a contactee guru. And let's face it, that's not what ufology needs. It doesn't need gurus. People who, when you ask them questions that you ask sincerely, look at you as if you've just insulted their mother, and then Dr. Greer doesn't, as far as I'm aware, outwardly ridicule anybody who interviews him, but it's very clear he has very little time for them. In which case, what's he doing there in the first place? You can't have your cake and eat it, and I think the further we delve into disclosure, we will find Dr. Stephen Greer slowly dealing himself out of the game. Talking of games, this brings me to Elizondo. Now, what can we say about Elizondo? I watched a Joe Rogan show with a guest on who said that Lou Elizondo had been working in Guantanamo, and whilst working in Guantanamo was called the Waterboard King. I don't know, I may be mistaken, and if I am, I hold my hands up, please do correct me. But it's clear that as an intelligence officer, Lou Elizondo has had to do some questionable things. It comes with the territory. And so now we're supposed to believe that he is the king of disclosure. Rather a transformation, wouldn't you say so? Once again, ufology presents us with a dichotomy, an unsquarable circle that we must get past, or it will forever be the pebble in our collective shoe. Are we supposed to believe that Lou Elizondo has just magically grown a conscience, a moral backbone? I, for one, would like to know the actual circumstances that elicited his turning. They say a leopard never changes its spots, but in the intelligence circles, identity is only skin deep. And so what are we to make of Lou Elizondo's new identity? Fighting for the people, fighting for disclosure. He's had a tough ride, frankly, and he came out to great fanfare, an insider spilling the beans, promising much and delivering, well, not that much. He's had some critical moments, to be sure, but he's also been seen on more than one occasion at talks producing photographs which were, frankly, fake. What are we to make of our intelligence idol then? This is a man who professionally would have crossed the T's and dotted every I. But now, no? So the question remains, are we, as the UFO community, being played? Everything is still on the table. With regards to Dr. Stephen Greer, is he an asset? Isn't he an asset? Frankly, I don't have a clue. My most likely guess is he wasn't an asset, and possibly, maybe now, just a tiny bit. He gets people to pay money for these trips where he takes them out and gets them to experience orbs in the sky and lights. Just sit in a chair, they tune in, man, and they appear in the sky. Wow. And that brings me neatly to the wild card, Chris Bledsoe, effortlessly mixing nuts and bolts ufology with ancient religion. A few decades ago now, at the end of his tether, he cried out to God in a moment of desperation and, well, everything changed. The craft came down, aliens came out, and then it just went a bit weird from that point on. There are mentions of his son, Ryan Bledsoe, who seems to be really pushing the religious angle. And as somebody who grew up in a Roman Catholic family who lost their religion, it leaves me just a little bit uncomfortable. But not so his father. His father is very laid back about the whole thing, and throughout his experiences has just remained steadfast and solid. He's not trying to convince anyone of anything. And if you don't believe him, well, he invites you round to his ranch, and things happen. He also has sky watches where he invites lots of people to a beach, generally I believe, and orbs appear. Chris Bledsoe is what the subject should be about in many ways, a grassroots, not-for-profit endeavour. And that brings me to the Sol Foundation and something else that makes me slightly uncomfortable about all this. Gary Nolan and the Sol Foundation are doing great work. Everything they touch is painstakingly pored over, researched, data is taken and analysed. There's nothing like the scientific mind. But for all the good that Sol are doing, it leaves me a little uncomfortable when the mention of capital comes up. Private business. For me, ufology, the UFOs, the UFO occupants, etc., are in many ways sacred ground. If this is true, this whole UFO thing, what it stands to do for humanity is to elevate us, maybe even make us godlike. And yet, here we sit with learned people, good people, I think, making a buck. Not a quick buck, because you can bet your bottom dollar Gary Nolan is going to work for the money he gets. But I just can't get past it. It doesn't seem right. But what the Sol Foundation does is it legitimizes the UFO investigation effort. It makes it real. There are credentialed scientists behind this, who in any other subject you would accept their word without a doubt. Make no mistake, the Sol Foundation is a bridge, and it stretches from the Sol Foundation to the whistleblower efforts currently associated with disclosure and the civilian effort that goes on every day. People all over the planet with their mobile phones, snapping, recording, witnessing what most other people used to say was fantasy or delusion. Every day on the internet we see more evidence of footage and strange happenings photographed by people everywhere. AI notwithstanding, of course. And I do wonder whether the whole race toward AI, getting AI up and running, has been to muddy the waters. I did a brave search on the internet yesterday for alien entity, and it was all AI. In the same way that the Men in Black film has ruined the search for Men in Black, AI has totally smokescreened UFOs and their occupants. Oh, why would they go to such limits, I hear you ask? Well, why not? If we're to believe the legends surrounding ufology, they've killed people to keep this subject quiet. No, as the intelligence services are putting out fires everywhere and retrieving craft, and Gary Nolan and the Sol Foundation are doggedly plugging away at everything they can get their hands on, people everywhere are trying to bring about their own form of disclosure, which I believe is where disclosure truly lies. But down the line, at some point in the future, I think disclosure will come. And it won't come from any one of these sources. It will end up being a collective effort. We will somehow all meet at the same place at the same time. I foresee a time in the not too distant future where, over the period of a month, information is disclosed at a pace, one after the other, building like a snowball that nobody can stop. A few events will happen, be they photographs, footage, or whistleblower claims, which will be unbreakably linked, which will illustrate clearly that something is happening. And frankly, wouldn't that be the most correct kind of disclosure? Do let me know what you think in the comments below. Do like, subscribe, and share if you'd like. It really would help the channel. And until next time, bye-bye.